Welcome. We're very privileged and very excited to introduce Professor Richard Slaughter's new book, Deleting Dystopia. Welcome, Richard.
Thanks, Luke. Good to be here.
It's great to have you. Now, Deleting Dystopia, why that title?
Well, it's good to start with the idea that technology is ambiguous. How it is used depends on whether or not it ends up being useful or not useful, or dangerous. And I'm afraid the arrangement of the IT systems that we have at the moment means that it's actually being used more for the accumulation of private profit than for anything else. That's driven this expansion in the way it has, long before the costs and drawbacks were understood. So what we actually have is a degraded and dangerous internet that really serves no one except the internet oligarchs. And what this means is that as these systems become more embedded, more powerful, we look forward to a future that looks more like a nightmare than anything else, hence a distinctively dystopian outlook, which I can't imagine anyone really wants.
Well, those are bold claims. What are the central issues that you base this claim on?
One is the loss of privacy, which I think has occurred over the last decade or two and which has affected most people. We're pretty much all aware these days, I think, that our control over our own private data has diminished over time. But more importantly than that, perhaps, is the actual damage that it's causing to younger people who inhabit these systems and use them without reflecting and are really subject to really quite severe exploitation. It needs a lot of careful attention to bring this under control. Along with that is this sense of the growing power imbalance between the systems and those control the systems and everybody else. In fact, its greatest, most clear expression is perhaps in the continuous cyber warfare that's carrying on all the time in the background, pursued by countries like China and others. It means that behind the smooth facade of everyday life, there's a constant attrition of social entities that really we can't really live with over a long time.
Now, in the book, you clearly evidence these issues. They're strongly evidenced not just on your own work, but based on the work of others. It then draws us to the question, which is, okay, so what are the solutions to these problems? What would you suggest?
Well, it's important to know where we are, to find our bearings, as it were. And work has been done that does, in fact, help us enormously with this by looking back at the establishment of some of these systems and seeing some of the things that actually occurred back then when no one was watching. It's important to note, for example, that the early internet oligarchs invaded human space long before anyone knew what was going on. So understanding that makes a big difference in the present. It means we can start to name and understand the predicament that we're in. Instead of it flying invisibly around us, we can really understand why we are where we are. And that helps us to understand why it would be really helpful to raise the issue of the social license to engage in these activities. The oligarchs seem to believe that they have that license already, but the fact is that they were never granted it. So we need to consciously withdraw what they think of as their rightness, their ability to be able to do these things, and instead bestow that legitimacy on civil society alternatives that are based on completely different values.
And that again is succinctly made, those suggestions are succinctly made in the book. So in your mind, what are the next steps?
Well, recognizing that the future is dangerous, but that we don't need it to actually become dystopian, there are several things we could do straight away. The first would be to establish national foresight commissions to provide us with a constantly updated, critical, credible view, or views plural, of how the near-term future looks, giving us time to make decisions and choices. Secondly, we need new legislation to rein in the power and reach of the oligarchs, to put them back in their box, if you like. And then alongside that, to replace them with social utilities that do the things they do and have done, but do so in a completely different way based on human values and human needs.
This is a must read. It affects the issues that you've raised, affects all of us. And as such, Richard, I'd like to thank you for this contribution to society. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. It's a pleasure.